Okay, guys. Well, I think we can probably get started. So one thing that we're doing is, because there's so much that's been going on, we'll be going over kind of a master list that Silo Chad has helped prepare of like all the all of the high level projects that we're working on, and we're kind of trying to prioritize them and make sure that one person has ownership of them, so that they can be really updating us on timelines. And there's been some confusion, I think, where it's just been a lot of different people have been getting involved, but then it's just kind of no one person can be kind of like leading it and being held to account. So I think that that's one thing we're going to be trying to do here, and we'll be sharing this document um, with everyone, and we can go when Silo Chat is going through it. We'll post it so that everyone can be looking at it at the same time. But if we, I'd like to see here. Just get started in a little more organized of a fashion. Just get to my notes here, sorry. So thanks for all coming at this kind of off time. We'll see how this works, what our attendance looks like, and then if this is going to make sense to do on a once a month type of basis. And also see if the attendance ends up being any different. And if it doesn't, we'll probably stick with the later time, because I think that tends to work for more people who aren't, who can't always dive into these meetings in the middle of the day. So we'll see how that goes. Do we have, okay, so we'll start with Max So, and you can give us some Biz Dev updates.
Hey guys, yeah, happy to jump in. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Cool. So I have a similar update to last week. Last week was a little bit of a wash with ETH Denver, but it was very successful for meeting people IRL who we've been talking to online. We had a first conversation with Swap DAO. Swap DAO is pretty interesting. We actually met the founder at the Beanstalk happy hour. So shout out to Bean Merchant for helping me plan that. So Swap DAO basically allows for borrowing against NFTs. And they said that they would also be able to support 1155s, which is what silo deposits will be classified as. So with Swap DAO, we might be able to borrow against our silo deposits. So that's another thing that we're scoping, similar to Fiat DAO, which is borrowing against pods. Both of the groups right now are trying to figure out, what that will look like. Borrowing against silo deposits, borrowing against pods. It seems pretty optimistic, but we're having the first call with them today. Let's see. LUSD, Beasley has been working on the implementation for this. Just as a reminder, we're installing this integration where essentially you can borrow LUSD against your ETH in one click and then interact with the silo or the field instantaneously. And so that's pretty interesting. And then we're also now in conversations with Liquidity about a few other integrations. I've mentioned them before, but just as a recap, we're thinking about rolling out a Bean LUSD pool where the LP can be deposited into the silo. And that's really attractive for LUSD because right now a lot of their capital, a lot of their LUSD is tied up in their stability pool, where the yield is going to half in about a month or month and a half. And so they're now scrambling, looking for new yield opportunities, and we think the silo might be pretty attractive for them. And so if we could even attract 5 or 10% of the LUSD that's in the stability pool, that would be tremendous for us. I think there's something like 300 million in that pool. So that's really exciting. Those are the biggest updates on the things that I'm most excited about. We took a call with the Tally Wallet team, who we also met at ETH Denver. They invited us on. They invited Publius on to talk in front of their 400 attendees. So that was really cool. Syncubate and I spoke in front of the Saddle Finance team, which was only about 20 attendees. Yeah, that's the bulk of the updates. Everything else is kind of in a similar position as it was last week. Still trying to figure out things with Rari. TBTC, we're still getting this proposal over to them to get an answer. But yeah, those are the most pertinent updates.
Cool. Thanks, Max. Anyone have any questions for Max?
Yeah, if I could just hop in there. What are the biggest blockers for you on on these. I think it would be awesome to drive towards even just like one of those partners kind of converting in some sense. So how can we help? Like, can we help with the with this write up you were describing?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the ones that's close, that's just been like something that I've lagged on. So it falls on me is TBTC. We had a call with them. They were interested, but we wanted to get a formal proposal over to them. And there was like one part of that proposal that I basically lagged on. But aside from that, it's like Swap DAO and Fiat DAO, their teams are still trying to understand how to use, essentially stock and pods as collateral. So it's not so much blocked, but it's complicated to figure them out, I would say.
Got it. Is there a way we can, I don't know what kinds of questions they're asking, and I'm sure it's specific to each different partner, but I'm wondering if we can almost open these questions up to Beanstalk Farms in some way. And there's like, for example, a ton of people around the Discord that just hop in and think through these things and answer questions. Maybe we can kind of crowdsource the responses in some way to keep things fast.
Something I can do is in this meeting agenda, I included our BD notes from yesterday, and that's where I'm kind of reciting these from. Maybe what I can do is I can do like, I can just send a message to like Beanstalk Farms General and just say like, here's where each of these things stand, and here's where we could use help on each of them. Because in the case of like Inverse, it's like if somebody's already in the Inverse community, we would love to have, include them in the conversation, because they know Bean, they know Inverse. Maybe they can smooth that conversation over. So why don't I do that? I can just say where each, project is at, and then where we could use a hand. Does that make sense? If that's what you were suggesting?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And, if there's specific things that we need to have written, or like collateral that you want to send to these partners, that could be something we standardize in some way, or just like throw into a doc so we can move faster on these things. Yeah.
Yeah. We're also still trying to figure out our process for BD, which is like, in the case of Inverse Finance, we now have a really compelling proposal for them. They want to mint a bunch more of their stable coin. We propose we spin up a pool with them. That LP can go into the silo, and then that silo deposit can be used to mint more of their stable coin. That's like obviously attractive to them, but it doesn't do us much good if we haven't talked to them yet. So there's sort of this order of operations that we're still trying to figure out, and I think what it will look like is us chatting with them more, just making it conversational, and then spending time on a proposal instead of wasting time on a proposal before actually, engaging them.
Cool. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Max.
Yep.
So yeah, the main thing that's going to be on my end, on the operations end of things, is going to be kind of talking through our project management and particularly use of the Notion. And I think that the high level of that is that we want to try to make the Notion like a little bit more user friendly and approachable for people to use, but in sort of a lightweight way. I think that in the feedback that we've been getting from the department heads is kind of like, when you start a project, particularly like the default project card is like a lot of stuff that that may or may not apply to your project. And a bunch of like, one thing that came out was there was a lot of different ways to tag an individual project, and a lot of them were being left blank and were just being. So I've been going through that with Silo Chad, Jaker B, and JWW to try to come up with a just a better system that I think is going to be a lot more less demanding from the from the user side of things, and making sure that each input is valuable and useful, so that it's not overwhelming when you're getting something set up. So anyway, there's going to be a lot of updates with that, but I think we're finally getting to a place where it's like we've had enough feedback that I think we can get it to a more approachable thing. So thanks for your patience, but I think we can really get that moving. Then we brought on a lot of people in this last week. I'm sure that you guys have seen the snapshots. There's plenty of active ones, from Cool Bean, who Silo Chad is bringing in on the front end to help them out, which is really great. Mod, who's helping out in marketing and is going to be handling a lot of these partnerships with Creator DAO, the engagement with Luna, and potentially with Serotonin. So that's great. T-Bic, who's doing data and metrics, who we're really excited to have. I don't think we have T-Bic. Oh yeah, oh no, sorry, we don't have T-Bic here right now, but that's okay. Sweet Red Beans, who is of course well known, who has helped D's a lot, but is now coming on in a formal capacity, so that's really exciting. Another person in the design department, Katara, who seems like a really great UX designer and really is going to help out in that regard. And then Beethoven, who we all know and love from the songs that he's been singing, but also the voiceover work, coming up with, and I'll let Dee speak to that when he comes up, but I think that there's a lot of exciting stuff that he can bring to the table too. So that's been, it's been busy bringing people on, but at the same time, I know that we still need more people. So I'm going to be having weekly meetings with the department heads, and I'm trying to knock them up for Friday. So if I haven't reached out to you yet, I think I've reached out to quite a few of you, scheduling times. But I think that's going to be a really good time for you to let me know how operations can help you, both in terms of hiring, in terms of project management, and just in terms of kind of helping you in any way for projects that are being blocked, and also as a little bit of accountability to say, hey, this has been on the project board for a while. Is this moving forward? What's the timeline? I'm going to try to just kind of be a bit of a sounding board, but also kind of a accountability partner for different projects and sticking to timelines and that sort of thing. So you can expect that, but it's a moving process, and we're going to see how that works. But I would like to at least have, instead of having kind of pretty often but not scheduled sync ups, I want to have a regular cadence where we're meeting up every week. So expect me to reach out on that. But that's about what I have. We'll a little bit later in the meeting we'll get to the Silo Chad's roadmap that has all the the important projects, and we'll discuss that. But real quick, we will, do we have Mr. Mochi? No, we don't. Shoot. Okay, if he hops on later, I have sent him a DM, but I just wanted to bring him up to talk about mods a little bit. But in the meantime, let's get to JWW, and we can talk about the poker tournament a little bit. I think we're about ready to accept buy-ins, aren't we? It's getting close.
Yeah. So many thanks to Silo Chad for kind of rushing the dev work over the weekend. So just to give everyone a really quick overview, so the tournament itself will be run on the 5th. We'll be looking at, it's going to be at 5:30 p.m. Pacific and then 8:30 Eastern. We're going to cap it at about 300 entrants this first time, just because we don't want it to get a little too out of control as we try to run the tournament. We've tried to set up the user flow pretty seamlessly from the buy-in on Bean.money through the registration on PokerStars, getting some information on Google Forms, and then inevitably ending up in the Discord. We are working on the allocation right now for the total payout and pods, but we're trying to bring in a handful of other protocols with Bean Intern's help. We've got running chat right now, which might get anywhere from, it seems like 2 to 4, maybe 2 to 5 other protocols involved, which would be great. And we've run one test tournament so far, but we'll likely be doing one more test tournament just to make sure that we have the right cadence for how things work in terms of the blinds and stuff like that. But overall, we think it's going to be a great chance for us to promote Bean and have kind of a use case for it. But then also just spread the word. We are started working on some of the marketing and promo content with TB and Mod. We've got like a banner live and a video that we're nearly finalized that we can use for content to push out. And then we'll continue to add to that list as it progresses. But overall, it's been really good kind of cross-departmental collaboration so far to get to where we are, which has been fantastic. We'll also be doing, as we mentioned in the last call, we're aiming to do some cameos where we'll have potentially professional poker players give kind of live readings of stuff to encourage other protocols to join and stuff like that. So we're trying to rush to get that stuff out as well. But really the big thing was to get the flow from the website through the sign up to be kind of seamless. So again, many thanks to Silo Chad for helping get that done over the weekend. But yeah, I think we should be ideally up and live with it pretty soon, hopefully within 24 hours, and we'll keep you guys posted.
Great. And so people will be able to buy in for the next probably 10 days or so?
Yeah, the idea would be to keep the buy open. My preference actually would be to close it at least 24 hours in advance. So probably on the 4th. Well, because the tournament would be in a week, so not necessarily 10 full days.
All right, sure.
But closer to about 7, just because I want to make sure that we, one, if we start to hit close to 300, we're going to have to cut off the registration. So that's one part. But then 2, we just want to make sure that we can get everyone in and have everyone signed up and work it all properly, given this is the first time that we're doing it. So again, we'll run one more test tournament to just make sure we iron out the kinks. But yeah, I would say it'll be live for about a week, definitely.
Okay, well, good. Looks like we're going to hit that date, so that's good. Very exciting. Okay, and TB, do you want to give us a marketing update?
Sure.
Really
can you hear me all right?
Really quick, maybe I missed this. What's the buy-in again for the poker tournament?
Yeah, it's going to be 100 beans.
Got it. Thanks.
And there is a way to buy in. Silo Chad came up with a way to, under the hood, you can use ETH or you can use beans, and it does a swap.
Awesome. Thanks.
You'll
guys.
see it. You'll see it soon. It's pretty attractive buy-in interface. It's nice.
Sweet.
Awesome. Yeah. There's tons of updates. But I'll sort of just go rapid fire. But just know that all this stuff is being worked on a lot by JDubs, Mod, and a lot of other folks in the community as well. So just going to brush through what we're doing on the marketing side. Really exciting. We're working with Luna and Serotonin. So we're in the contract stage. And that's 2 very reputable agencies that are going to help us out with marketing. Many different aspects of marketing, including content, product marketing, getting media out, getting conversions up on our website. So a ton of stuff, and I will hold calls to sort of brief relevant people on how we work together with both these agencies and what our plan is. The Creator DAO partnership, that's rolling through. Content suggestions are starting to come up. So I think the first piece of infographic came up today. It's not ready for production yet. It's in feedback stage. So that's Creator DAO. We also have a podcast that Publius recorded, Refi DeFi, coming out today. So we'll be pushing that through all our social channels. It should be released shortly, actually. And Publius is also recording another podcast called Mission DeFi in about 45 minutes, I believe. We also have analytics set up on the website. We're getting tons of great insights. What I want to do is actually hold a session for all the relevant folks in the DAO whose interest it is to kind of learn what people are doing on our site, where we're getting our traffic from, what the quality of that traffic is, and how to increase those efforts. There's a ton of stuff happening on the partnership side as well. We got a quote yesterday from CoinDesk on the advertising side, and that's something we're going to wait on, and we're going to talk more about it in the marketing meeting, because we're also getting Luna and Serotonin on. So we're not quite sure if we're going to go ahead with that proposal yet. We're in conversation with Masari and me and Maxo, as well as Mod. So the 3 of us have been in conversation with them. It's an ongoing funnel. They've asked us to kind of contact them next month, and we'll see how that goes. Mod, I'm probably missing a couple of things. Do you want to add in anything that I'm missing?
We have a few more partnership. They sent us some quotes, but nothing yet to share with the community, I guess. We're still in talks. And as you said, we might wait and see what the agencies give us some feedback as well, and then we'll come back and share with the community.
Okay, sounds good. Lastly, we're helping with the poker tournament, helping produce the marketing material, the videos. It's really been a lot of great teamwork, and it's been a lot of fun. From like Beat the Win recording a song, Mod's designer producing the collateral, us producing the video. So it's really been a fun project, and we hope that that will bring us a lot of good people. Lastly, I'll say we're hiring. We're still short about 4 people in our team, and we're in talks with a couple of people. But yeah, that's one of our priorities. One of our weak points right now is something that we haven't really worked on too much is the Notion. And so I'm going to be focusing my next day or two in getting that up and running. But any questions, comments are welcome.
Yeah, one question on my end. Could you explain the difference between Luna and serotonin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like why we would hire both?
Yeah, for sure. Luna, to me at least, the way we're going to focus them on different things. So Luna is a traditional PR agency, which means our contract with them is about getting out 3 articles a month, getting a couple of marketing campaigns going, doing some guerrilla marketing on Twitter and Reddit. Whereas Serotonin is a full stack marketing team almost. So they're going to ask us what our goals are. We're going to give them a path saying we want to hit 10,000 Discord users, let's say by April or May. And they're going to work on a comprehensive marketing plan, which includes a lot of different marketing verticals, including, let's say, content and product and SEO. So the advantage of Serotonin is that we don't have to then build a marketing team from the ground up. And they're going to do a lot of that stuff for us. So for us, although one thing that is kind of overlapping between them is the media efforts, but we do want Serotonin to help us with media some places because they have gotten, let's say, someone like Ampleforth into Bankless on the Bankless podcast. So it feels like Luna will be a lot more traditional, getting our 3 standard articles out, whereas we'll keep Serotonin for very premium outlets. There is likely to be a little bit of overlap, but we will resolve that on a case-by-case basis. So there are 2 sort of different marketing plays in a way.
Cool. And when do you expect that they will basically start shipping content? Like when will we start seeing Luna pushed pieces around?
I think mid to late March is when you should see both of those roll. But this is, that's at least my estimate at the moment. They're both in contract stage. We're hoping to sign the contract, pass the snapshots, hopefully in the next week or so, make the payments. There's going to be a couple of weeks of research and analysis and understanding and goal setting. And all that good stuff before things start coming out.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for TB?
Awesome.
Okay, next would be D's Beans. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Nope, all good.
Oh, that was your TB. Okay. Deez, do you have any design updates for us?
Yeah.
I know this. Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, super excited about all the other departments and kind of how everything's coming together. And also really excited for the snapshots and the different proposals that we have going on. I know last week we did the pitch for kind of the new creative direction. Quite different, but really excited that the DAO is excited to kind of move forward with it. But we'll see in a few days if it finishes and gets approved. But as far as like some deadlines, so Guavin and I, we've been working pretty hard with the style guide for just like the foundational pieces. You can see more of that in the snapshot, but that's going to include a lot of the things that we talked about in the pitch last week, and it'll be more of like a formal document. And that document is really so that anyone making content, anyone making anything visually related to Beanstalk Farms is so that they could just take it and be able to make some piece of content on brand. That's kind of the goal of that. And so we're aiming to finish that by this Saturday. So we'll be able to pump out that document and get the feedback, making sure everything is good to go. And then it's also a living document. We're going to be adding to it, like in applying different things such as what's going to be the UX UI version applying this style guide, what's going to be the audio version of applying this style guide, et cetera, et cetera. So really excited for that first doc to come out. We had some pretty big meetings yesterday as far as the website overhaul, and with Silo Chad, the front-end engineering team, and with the UX UI team, made some pretty big goals, but we think we can hit it. We're going to try to do a full website overhaul, just like a strong MVP version before Q2. So by the end of Q1, which should be in about a month, 5 weeks-ish, we're going to try to finish that and have that ready for Q2. And then other than the website and then just kind of the brand overhaul, we just have other things kind of cooking. We are going to hire, hopefully, Beanstalk and another one of his referrals to kind of head out our audio sub-department. Really excited for that because we don't have anybody who specializes in audio, who has equipment and kind of that full semi, production setup in their home for us to, run our podcasts and support all of the video creation that we have, do any voiceovers, all of that stuff. Really excited for them to come in and also just kind of lead out the audio branding direction. But yeah, other than that, everything's just kind of chugging along. we're grinding.
Do we have a vision for how many audio different types of projects and things we'll be aiming to produce, maybe in Q2, or have we thought about? It'd be great to have a lot of this stuff to be able to do in house, but I'm just curious if you've once we have two audio people, what can we as far as deliverables, what we can expect. I think that audio has been really important for our conversion, so I think it's a great opportunity, but I think we should probably have have some idea of what we're exactly trying to accomplish in Q2 with two audio people.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, if we could have more, that'd be great, but just because they're pretty skilled in most of the between the two of them, I'm pretty sure that we can get anything that we need as far as audio support. So, for example, podcasts, making sure that for all the we're going to be pumping out tons of videos as far as educational content. They're going to be probably busy handling all the recording and voiceovers, all those things for that. I feel like Q2 is going to be because Q1 we focused a lot on rebranding, overhauling the experience. Q2 is going to be a lot of pumping out tons of new content, making sure we have good educational content and all that stuff. And if we can start to move away from kind of the blogs and all these posts and start to take those things and make it more accessible, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be more than enough work for them.
Sure. Yeah, I think so. And in what how do we? I know that in the snapshot for Beethoven, the music, where do we want to prioritize the music? I feel like it's actually been a really good thing as far as engagement and excitement, and I think it's really. Do you have an idea? And maybe Beethoven can speak to this too, but where you want to put that in the priority of things?
No, for sure. That's definitely a good point. We talked a lot to Beethoven. First, we're going to figure out again, applying with our rebrand, what's the right tone and type of music that we want to be creating out of Beanstalk. And so that's going to be another big project starting between next month, and then I'm assuming just flowing into Q2. But the fact that we have artists working at Beanstalk is going to be great. But yeah, I would say just stay. We'll keep you up to date on that.
I suppose it's also, I know that you've made Beethoven. You made 2 songs and a half right now. I don't know if there are 20 songs in you for, I think that it has to be, is a creative process too, but I think they're pretty amazing. Definitely, I think there's a lot we can do with them, and it really sets us apart, I think. I think it's kind of, it's impressive and cool. So anyway, I'm very supportive of it, but I'll let that process play out.
Yeah, totally. And just to say really quickly, like I have a lot of fun with it, and for me currently, I'm treating it as a little bit of an overflow project. So if there's not something that's immediately right in front of me, then yeah, that's something that I can definitely spend time on. And very soon we'll get some more songs, and then figuring out how to apply that and the best way to utilize that, beyond just closing out some meetings with a hoot and a holler is going to be interesting as well.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks, Deez. Thanks, Beethoven. I'm just seeing if we have anyone. Who do we have from copy department? I was just seeing if we had Quasimat, eReal, J-Man. Could you just give us a little bit of a update on copy department, either what you're working on, or what some of the projects are there? I'm sure Publius could also speak to this. We could also bring Quasimat up next week, since I know we just submitted his snapshot, and he's going to be leading that department. But I just thought that might be interesting. But also, I don't know if you're in a place where you can speak, J-Man. So I don't mean to.
You guys hear me?
Call you out. Yeah.
So the copy department has a couple things going on. One is we're doing final edits to the curve gauge proposal, which we intend to submit informally to the relevant communities, Curve, Convex, Stake DAO, and beyond that, once the proposal's dropped, then we'll kind of make it formally on chain a couple days thereafter. Other projects that the copy department is working on are the Git book. That project has been restarted. It's going to be a major project, so it's not going to be published anytime soon, but high quality documentation remains a foremost priority. And now that Quasimat is leading up the department, we're going to try to get that ball rolling again. And then the other major update is the white paper. The white paper is a little bit behind right now. It hasn't been updated to reflect BIP 12 yet, which is just a function of the fact that we're making like a larger overhaul to the white paper to try to just update it to be ready for all of the upcoming BIPs reflected in the roadmap. And so it's a little bit more of a holistic process than any of the previous edits have been, and therefore it's taking a little bit of time. But those are kind of the high level things the copy department is working on at the moment.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Tbic, I wanted to, I know you've been working on analytics and doing stuff within the engineering department. Wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to share. I know I forgot to mention you last time for new contributors, so I wanted to also introduce Tbic. I think that everyone knows his name and his PFP. So I just wanted to introduce you and see if you had anything to add.
Yeah, well, thanks. So let me just think where to start here. So right now, I recently got a more recent version of the the Beanstalk protocol smart contract decoded on Dune. So now it includes data up to BIP 11, not BIP 12, because Publius is pushing code way too fast for me to keep up. So I'll have to resubmit it at some point. But now there's pod marketplace data and a few other BIPs worth of data there, so that's good. Currently working on some analytics related to the pod marketplace and surfacing insights on Dune there. Another thing that was mentioned to me in a meeting recently as something I might consider prioritizing is like a silo APY calculator. So I think that'd just be good. This is a good time to mention that because I want to get connected with the right people to understand like the existing work going on, maybe what timelines we have predicted for delivery on an MVP for that, and whether or not I should prioritize that moving forward. Because right now I'm doing a lot of like general data infrastructure for the dashboard and just kind of some edits and fixes here and there. But like I have a lot of tasks outlined. I think one thing I need to do a better job is kind of like prioritizing them. So I have something I refer to as the roadmap, and it has a lot of ideas. But I think I need to more clearly conceptually define like what is a priority versus what is not. So there's still some work to do there, and open to suggestions on like what the highest interest like analytics we want to service to the community are, so that I can prioritize those.
Great. Well, I think that might be a really good lead into handing the floor to Silo Chad, who has been, maybe by looking at what the outstanding projects are, and I know he has a really good, because of his position, and he has a really good view of kind of a high level view of things, and what maybe recentering ourselves and reprioritizing ourselves. So I just wanted to give him the floor for a bit to walk through his document. And Silo, I don't know if you want to share that so that everyone can sort of go through it with you, or what your plan was, but I'm going to hand the floor to you.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it, Dumpling. Let me reshare this link again for everybody real fast. I'll put it in the Barnyard chat. So the goal of what we've got going here is basically to just really quickly write down all of the projects that we're working on across Beanstalk Farms, try to explain the in a sentence or two, and then put some things to owners and timelines. I think it's really helpful to drive towards some sense of ownership and dependencies are, because I know we're kind of at this stage now where we want to, we've got a lot of people involved. We want things to be moving quickly, but also just like with all the dependencies, we need to stay aligned. So that was the goal here. I've tried to exhaustively list everything that I know is going on, and a bunch of you, so thanks for all the information you've provided on this front, but I'm sure I've missed a bunch of stuff. So if you please feel free to edit this doc. I think the way I see this right now is just as a reference for us for the next 6 weeks or so of what we'll be pushing. And then, we can look at using this as some sort of template perhaps for future DAO meetings, or even as something that we maintain throughout a quarter, so that we're all aligned around, what are the biggest and most important projects that we're pushing. So again, please feel free to jump in, tweak anything. Let me know if I've mischaracterized something that you're working on, or if I didn't include it entirely. A lot of this we've already talked about today, so I don't know that I need to specifically run down each item, but yeah, I think in general this kind of encapsulates a lot of what the DAO has been up to. Dumpling, what do you think is best here? Should we go down some of these items? Do you have any particular that you think we should surface?
Well, I think that a good thing that came up in our conversations in the last week is just kind of this idea of priorities and what is highest priority, and also how quickly we feel like things need to ship. And I guess just that as we get, when there's, if someone's working on 3 projects, or if the whole DAO was only working on 3 projects, it's pretty easy. Okay, this one's the most important, and this. But once we have 30 or 40 projects, it just probably 10 of those really, really need to happen, and need to happen within by the end of the quarter. It need to happen within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And how can we just utilize the resources of the DAO, pull other people in, get some more manpower, and just spotlight those those projects and those initiatives that we really need done. I guess that would be my thing. And so I'm just kind of trying to come up with, as a group, and bold those things that we really, really, really need to get done. I guess that would be maybe a useful use of this time would be calling out some different projects like that. But I'm not exactly sure. But that's what I think is helpful by having one document like this. That's a little bit less overwhelming to look at than 100 cards, looking at something with 30 or 40 items. I guess since I'd be interested to hear you, kind of tell us what you think, deserves the most focus and the absolute top prioritization, for the next, I guess, maybe the next like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to dive into that. So I think the sort of starting point that I've worked from here is what's going on the back end side of things. So what Publius is pushing, sort of on the contract side from the silo generalization and all of those things, and then trying to figure out what resources we need to pull in to get those updates deployed to the front end. That obviously involves a ton of both engineering, and then also we've got to rope the design team in to build some components. We've got to prepare ourselves on the marketing front for all of the stuff that's going to go along with that. So I've tried to outline the core goals here. So Publius, feel free to cut me off as well if I get any of this wrong. But in terms of the next 6 weeks, the main focus are the three things here at the top. So pushing the BIPs remaining for the silo generalization. So this will allow us to have generalized convert, minting, and the generalized bean farm. So wrapped assets on the farm. And if I understand correctly, the goal is to push that as a BIP sometime in the first week or 2 weeks of March. And so we'll need to line up, upgrades to the front end, for example, to be able to deposit generalized assets along with that. So the design team and I have ironed out some deadlines on that front to be able to get there. T-Vic, did you want to jump in? No. Okay, cool.
Oh, sorry, no, I was just off mute. My bad.
No worries. Yeah. Okay. And then we back inside got the convex rewards, which I know is dependent on this gauge proposal, if I understand right. So it sounds like that should go out in the next couple of weeks. And then Bean Joyer and Maltese, who's a new hire, are working on improvements to the pod market, which is kind of in its own silo to some extent. So that's kind of the core things on the back end. On the front end, I just want to shout out the design team. A really great job of flexing to kind of flexing what they're working on to kind of help us push stuff on the front end faster. I think that we're trying to set up a good feedback loop of getting components in front of me and the rest of the engineering team as quickly as we can, so we can kind of get stuff parallelize things here to some extent, because I think in general we want to be pushing as quickly as possible the shipping updates to the front end. So I've, in the design and front end section, I've outlined a couple of those key projects, but just to spit them back here real quick. So on the front end side, we've got the silo interface update, which is basically updating the current silo in the existing web app. So no major style changes. We still have the background, the sidebar, and all the things we're used to, but just thinking about how can we add some sense of like a return value with an APY, a summary of balances, or other metrics like this. So that's going to be going out hopefully by the end of this week. If my target at the latest is next Wednesday, but we're getting wireframes locked in today with the team. I've also got a number of other like eng tasks around this that I'm happy to dig into but the basic goal is getting us to a point where towards the end of March, we can ship a full website overhaul with a new design if we can get that done in time, and like ideally get to a point of open sourcing by then. I think that particular priority is going to get back to ship some of these new features with the silo generalization and stuff like that. But that's my goal here. So that's what I see as kind of like the core things that we're shipping. I think we've got a ton of really interesting stuff going on surrounding that with like the poker tournament and similar things, but really building out a tight feedback loop between front end and design is my goal right now.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. And I think that, in reviewing this, there's something nice about this document. And I think that I'm not sure what our plan for it should be, or if this is the sort of thing we want to, review in detail, once a month at maybe the first meeting of the month or something like that. Do you have a plan for, I guess, what was your vision in coming up with this document? What need is it filling? And how should we, approach this kind of like, should we have these kind of 6-week sprints or one month sprints that we try to accomplish everything on here, or that we try to give me your vision for this and how this could fit into project management?
For sure, yeah, I'm open to different lengths of sprint time. I think we've thought about the DAO in terms of quarters. What I'm really trying to drive to here is specific dates where things are going to happen, or weeks where things are going to happen, so that we can stack rank and parallelize stuff. So this is particularly important, for example, with this interaction between design and engineering, which we've been talking about, but having components designed so that I can feed them to the front end team, and requirements fed, vice versa. So I think the way to use this document would be take a look at the whole thing. If I've missed your project, please ask. And then let's just try to come up with some dates that we can track towards, and to some extent hold ourselves accountable to those dates. I think it'd be great to review this quickly before the DAO meeting as sort of like a foundation for what we're supposed to be getting done. If we need to tweak stuff or move stuff around, those sorts of things happen. But just in general, having a timeline would be great.
So I think as looking through this, Silo Chad, it may be really good to just marry this with the existing project list that we have, but then just add deliverable dates to the project list itself, and that way we can kind of keep ourselves accountable. But that way we can go through and I think the issue right now in the project list itself, the master project list, is the priority ranking is kind of deemed by department, which obviously has to account. But like if we look kind of Beanstalk Farm / Beansprout wide, going through that project list and then reprioritizing kind of the high priority based on the Beanstalk Farms entirely, and then adding basically in a column that accounts for deliverable dates, it kind of does fulfill a handful of the things that you're talking about. So for example, it includes cross-departmental projects and stuff like that. But it might be a way, just this list is awesome, but even as I'm kind of comparing this to what exists in the Notion, some of these things are kind of spelled out, and it's just kind of this master project list as well. And so maybe if there's a way to just marry these with that deliverable date, it might be a way for us to kind of, from a PM perspective, keep things organized.
Yeah, we can discuss. I think the motivation of putting this in a separate, have one single place source of truth that we can quickly tweak. I don't want to. I think figuring out that project flow, sort of what Dumpling described earlier, is something that we really need to nail down. I don't think we want to be bogged down with lots of the need to fill out lots of Notion cards, for example, to keep this stuff on track. So part of the motivation on my end as well was just to make this more transparent and fast to interact with.
Yeah, I would just second that and say that that's the benefit of having someone managing the Notion. And I think, Dumpling, can you comment on whether Jacoby is coming in to help on that front, so that, the idea is that teams can use the resources of Beanstalk Farms to make sure that everything is organized through the Notion, but don't need to spend time individually necessarily.
Well, yeah, that's been one conversation that we've had in the last few days is like, how can we make it like Silo Chad just described it perfectly, is like, how can we make it more lightweight and quicker to keep everyone updated, but not to have, I think that because it was Hugh was coming from a larger organization, that there might have been, when he designed our Notion, I think it had too much, too many layers of organization and too many, it is an awful lot. I think a lot of people have expressed that, where there's a lot to fill out, a lot of checklists, a lot of inputting someone from each department and this, and it just became a little bit overwhelming. So people would, I think what was tending to happen, people can correct me if I'm wrong, was a project would get started, a Notion card would get made, everything wouldn't get filled out, and then it wouldn't be updated. So there were tons of them stacking up in the sort of getting ready to launch phase. And then as those projects were getting done, people were excited, they're working within Discord, within DMs. They're not really, they weren't keeping it all updated, but a lot of those things, and I feel like you explained this very well, Silo Chad, I might let you explain this, but like when stuff's getting done and a thing can be done in like 5 minutes, each of those steps then shouldn't be updated necessarily on, on the Notion, but it should be updated maybe once a week as far as like a status update. Like, do you have a vision for, how often things should be updated? And because it seems like right now it's just not getting done. I don't know. It's a tough conversation to have in a big meeting like this, but I think we need to come up with exact standards of documentation, in the Notion. What's required? If there was a meeting on this, there should be a link to the meeting notes. If the date gets changed, the date should be changed in the Notion. But otherwise, we should let projects happen, and we should be kind of more dynamic and lightweight, as opposed to having to record every little thing, because ultimately, people aren't going to do that. I think it's kind of the result that I was getting from several different chats. We just want to lower the barrier, like the threshold, or like that. The feedback that we're getting is that it was sort of intimidating to load something in the Notion, and that it's sort of like. Anyway.
Dumply, I don't want to cut you off.
Go ahead.
But I think that's exactly the problem that needs to be fixed. Like, if the Notion is easy to use and it's not intimidating to upload things, then it's going to be used more, and it's going to help. It's going to help projects more, in my opinion. And so that might just be a problem with how we're designing the workflows, and how, if everyone kind of understands the workflows. I think I don't think people who are using the Notion understand the different workflows or how it's set up, which is why it could feel very intimidating. So it might just be really up to whether the department heads to get their teams on board, or I don't know.
I think so.
That's just kind of my hot take.
This is kind of where we came up with this idea of the weekly meetings with department heads with me, and then where we could just have a Kanban board with each. It's just simple. You can make them as complex as you want, but in general, you start a new project. You're going to make make an intro video. Okay, great. You make a card for that, a little tiny card within the board, and you say, here's who's on it. Here's when we're shooting to meet. Or here's when we're shooting to get that accomplished by. And then as that project progresses, we move the card, and then there's just less to it. As when you do a project and a sub project, and that card has an owner, but then it also has all these people involved with it. People are getting tons of notifications on Notion, and it's almost like, I just think that's where there's a certain point where it becomes more of a burden to document it than it is to use it. And I think we're over that. We're over that threshold, and we need to dial it back. But then we need to make people use it, but make it easier for people to use it. I think that's just really what it comes down to.
Yeah, if I could jump in here real fast. First of all, we just looks like we just repegged, so nice. But aside from that, I think the meta comment I'd have here is that in general, the value of all these systems or product management things is just getting shit done, and getting shit done fast. And I think sort of taking a note out of the learnings from startup world, I think we want to index more on fast communication in public channels or otherwise, and just having lots of small, fast conversations to get things done, over trying to offload that to this Notion-ish system that we build, which I think the ultimate goal and theoretical value of that is that anybody can step into the DAO at any time and just get the master download of what's going on. So are correctly categorized in their right places. But the reality is that that's just a mess to keep track of and to standardize. And so in an effort to keep everything moving quickly, I'd rather you just just call me on Discord over make me update a card, for example, and I can give you the full download. And obviously over time we want to transition more of our operations to these standardized formats, and I think that was going for and why it worked for Clima and et cetera. But for right now, we just got to really move quickly. I'm open to hearing other opinions though, and so yeah, if anybody please feel free to chime in here.
Yeah,
I mean, I need to be owning up a lot more to this entire conversation because constructing this notion in a seamless way has been something that's definitely been a priority. It's on my to-do list, and it's a priority. And so, I do feel quite a bit of onus actually on this entire conversation. But on that note, actually, Silo, to what you were just saying, like from like a project perspective, you know, I can just say anecdotally, like the few that I'm trying to push out and get done, it feels more like once it's clear like who the project owner is, especially for these kind of cross-departmental pieces as we're doing them, it just needs to be more accountable as well. And obviously, we need to tie all of that back to the Notion. But to your point, like sometimes it ends up just being faster to be churning stuff out. It's almost like we need a PM wrapper around all of this stuff. You know, like maybe it's the case that somebody running a project doesn't always jump back in to tie it back into the Notion. But if that's the case, then we should be throwing a PM on that project to make sure that they can wrap it up and put it back on the Notion that way. I mean, I think it seems like it's a way to allow the projects / teams to be running as fast as they can, while at the same time kind of keeping that organization in place.
Yeah, I guess my hot take right now is like I don't give a shit if it's in Notion if it so I would almost leave that up to the teams to some extent themselves. Like if that actually makes you move faster, let's do it. But yeah, I think at this stage we should just be like communicating together more, and otherwise just like keeping things lightweight.
Yeah, I mean the gritty side of me completely agrees because it's just considerably faster. But then I also, from like an operational organizational side, and from like from an organizational side, I can completely understand. I mean, Deez, for example, like has done a great job with the design side, so I think it's abundantly clear like how the organization can work. But he and I even just ran into an instance recently where like it was almost too organized and it prevented the project in some ways. And so like I think we do just have to find a nice marriage between the two. But I agree, we need to be pushing product. I think it's just it seems like I think what might be a solution, Dumpling, is having, like I said, like maybe like a PM wrapper around the projects, where should it be the case that, you know, if it's like a multi-day thing at minimum and team members, or maybe it's a week plus thing, and we need to have some kind of documentation around it, and the project lead running it is too involved with the execution of it, then maybe we have one of the PMs wrapping around the project to make sure that it's tracked on the Notion itself.
Yeah, quick question there. So you see the like department heads taking the role of PM there, or do we have people who are more in like a dedicated PM capacity who might be cross team and be slotted to particular projects and be consistently coordinating with department heads and those involved in the projects just to ensure that documentation is in place as we move forward on efforts? Because I hear both sides of this. It's kind of a spectrum of trade-offs between development velocity and like the cost of not having things documented well when you get to some point in the future and you're like, oh, we moved really fast, but now we're trying to onboard new things. So there's this large kind of knowledge barrier that people have to get up to speed with by traversing Discord as opposed to traversing Notion, which, assuming we can get it to a point where it's lightweight and well organized, like I think that'll be a big value add. If we do sacrifice some short-term development velocity.
I want to chime in real quick there and just say that, I think that is exactly. I think you put it very well there. That it's a balance, and I think there's some things that are working really well in Notion right now, and we should build on those as opposed to just feeling like we're a slave to this system that we built. Like, let's make it work for us. And I feel like right now, in some cases, we're working for it. So I think that like processes being documented like might be kind of a pain, but yeah, if someone's fired or someone leaves the project for whatever reason, then we need to know how certain things are done. Right now we have a couple of good examples of documented processes, but I think that's something that it's a cost as far as time, but it's worth doing. I think as far as login credentials, as far as having one place so you don't have to sift through all the snapshots, like to have all the proposals up, meeting notes, there are certain things that are working just naturally and are working pretty well. But then I think it's mostly that project, the project end of things that isn't working really well. And so I think that my vote on that would probably be to, before we're that big, probably to have the department heads, do a weekly sync up and then update all of their projects that they're taking ownership of. And any sub-department heads that are taking ownership of projects, they could also do that. But I think that having a separate layer of PMs might just be too much organization too quick right now. But I'm open to other ideas, but I just think that JWW, do you want to
I
hop
agree
in
with
there?
that. I agree that having an extra layer of PMs is probably like overkill at that point, and the people like running point on projects should be kind of like taking that responsibility. And I guess it'll be kind of team specific as to how like project processes and workflows are organized and documented. But yeah, it makes sense to have the person in charge of the project doing that rather than some dedicated person who crosses teams and that's their only function.
Yeah, and I
Cool.
think that makes sense. And actually, Dumpling, like so I had the first kind of session with the department heads, and you're probably about a week ahead of me right now, to be honest, because the next thing was to talk with them about their individual pages on the Notion and then tie out the projects themselves. And so where I was thinking to actually organically go is exactly what you're saying right now. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe we do just want to think about it when it comes to like broader cross-departmental things that happen, how we can kind of, I mean, unless we just take that like on the ops side where we're just saying, okay, if it's a cross-departmental project, given the fact that these weekly meetings are happening where we're talking directly with the department heads, then we just figure out kind of still at the end of the day, who's the owner of quote unquote the entirety of it. That's still the only thing I think would be important to include.
Yeah, I think it would just be whatever is whoever has a clear leadership role. If it's Silo Chad who needs some stuff from design, but it's his project, then that just kind of makes sense. Or if it's I'm just trying to, typically when you think about a project, there would be one person who would be the key person, and then there'd be one person who is in a different department but is still useful. They're looping in marketing, but marketing, all they have to do is send a DM to TB, or to hop into the marketing channel. I think adding a new person, and we've tried this, and I just don't think it works so well, because it adds their schedule into the mix. It adds, you could ask them a question and then maybe they take an hour to get back to you, and that's just an hour that we just lost. Anytime there's more people involved than have to be, I think that time is lost and things happen slower, and it just kind of, the machine gets slowed down, and I think we want it to be as lean as possible. And I think that this document that Silo Chad put together and these conversations was just kind of a wake up call for me, where it's like, yeah, we need to move faster, and we need to document stuff, but we need to move faster. Just kind of a call for a little bit of urgency. And I think that's good.
Yeah, to kind of put a bow on all of this, and then move to a couple other questions. I think like what I'd love to see is, if you're working on a project, like try to put it to a date, like put a date on it, and yeah, just use Discord as much as you can to stay in touch and like keep people updated, and then also ask questions. I'm hoping that these like Beanstalk Farms channels kind of become a way for us to kind of keep things moving really quickly. And then yeah, Dumpling, J-Dub, we can talk a little bit more about like tactically where to move from here. But I'd love to actually move the last few minutes of this towards blockers. So I've got all this stuff written down here with a starter understanding of what each project is and the dates. Let's open the floor. What's blocking your project? Feel free to just jump in, and let's. If you're stuck on something, how can we get your project moving?
I can hop in here. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a blocker, just something I need to do to get like progress moving forward. So I've collected a lot of ideas for the dashboard, but I kind of want to reorient the existing project for it to get it to kind of like MVP state. MVP meaning it has, it's very polished, it's very consistent, it communicates things clearly to people, and it has pretty much everything we want it to have. Obviously, there will be future ongoing improvements, but I kind of want to get it to a point where we can start to promote it further, because I think that will just pay a lot of dividends in getting people interested and educated about the protocol. So I just want to call out that in the near future, I'm actually going to be out of town this weekend, so I kind of front-loaded my work this week. But this upcoming week, I want to schedule a meeting with just a variety of people after I kind of like organize and collect my thoughts to like get feedback on the dashboard, go over kind of like all the outstanding ideas and things we've identified as potential work streams, and like prioritize them and kind of wrap that up as the criteria for an MVP. And then once I do that, I can kind of outline a timeline and get pushing toward like a specific date for release.
Great. My calendar's open to have that call, but if anybody else to doing that call, hit up.
Yeah, early or middle of next week is when I'm envisioning that happening. So I'll reach out to the relevant people. Just wanted to call it out.
Awesome. Anyone else, feel free to jump in on stuff that's blocking you.
I might also, and this might be an easier question to answer. Who's feeling like really stretched thin? Just from a project perspective, people like feels like they could accomplish a lot more. I mean, Silo Chat, I think you're the perfect example. But we need to place a priority list on who we really need to bring on board for the top priority stuff. And so let me know, and we can try to fill those positions. And maybe we haven't even posted a position, and yet you're feeling really stretched. So let me know.
Yeah, and this isn't. I guess this is. I don't know how necessarily this is a blocker. I think Dumpling. It's just. I think accessibility to team, especially cross departmentally, is something to think about, because as we're trying to work on stuff, I think that's clear. Like the people within Beanstalk Farms, and maybe it's the case with Beansprout as well. But those that are like really accessible and on. Versus those that are off. And I know this relates again to like a calendar setup for the DAO overarchingly that we need to add, but I think getting a better feel for maybe those that are part-time and what their availability is, I guess again across the Beanstalk Farms might be helpful. I'm just trying to say that because again, I think that the few projects that I've been working on, like it's very clear, like when the team members are there, we're able to get stuff done, but the few that are not, and I'm still not exactly sure that are kind of more part-time when they're available, makes it a little bit more difficult. And so I think maybe, again, I know we need a kind of a Beanstalk Farm wide calendar, but that might be really helpful, because when it comes to a blocker on our side, like I think we can get running, and like I know with you're an example, and Silo Chad's an example, and TB and stuff like that. Like if I need if there's something I'm running through, I can just literally shoot a DM in Discord almost 24/7. We start working through something. But on the part-time side, sometimes we run into hiccups that can slow things down a little bit.
Yeah, I think two things on that. One, if we have, and we're working on this, D's, I think hopefully even today we can get out an org chart that shows who's part-time and who's not. But if an attachment to that could be what people's schedules, good times are, that would be really handy, I think, if we had just one list and it said, oh, this person is available from then to then, typically, that they're, or even just like what bad times are. Some people are like, oh, I just, Fridays from noon on, I'm no good, but otherwise I'm available. Like that'd be good to know, because yeah, so I think maybe we can put together some sort of document like that could be helpful. And definitely an org chart, because I think people are just wondering like, oh, who's really, besides this person, who's in that department? Or, like even I feel that way. And if I'm feeling that way, then I'm sure everyone else is. So I think that's important. We'll publish that.
For sure.
Soon.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Who else wants to hop up and get unblocked? Okay, great. Well, thanks for letting me take the floor for a bit, Dumpling. Always open to feedback on this, on all of these things. So please feel free to ping me. But yeah, just in general, very excited to keep things moving forward. I'll probably be spending even more time around the Beanstalk Farms channels and in voice and pinging people in these public channels. So hoping that will be sort of get the ball moving on a lot of these things. But yeah, excited to move forward, and thank you all.
And actually, real quick on that, to Silo, before Dumpling, I think one thing that we should also just add to this, frankly, to keep things upbeat, is to the opposite of the unblock. I mean, for example, the projects that I've been working on, it's been amazing how accessible everyone has been. So I think we just want to make sure that we're putting time towards the positive reinforcement side of cross-departmental stuff. Obviously, we don't need to have a big kumbaya session, but I think it would be really good just for morale to continue to have the opposite of it's awesome, for example, that Mod, you were willing to have a call with me until 2 a.m, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that there's been a ton of really exciting stuff happening in the last 2 weeks. And I know that I probably said that every 2 weeks, since I started, but really it seems like just a ton of really cool stuff, and like particularly Rex. You're on my list still to bring up here, so sorry, I meant to get to that before passing the floor. I wonder if you could speak a little bit to the metaverse stuff that and your department in general. I know you haven't had that long to get settled in just yet, but do you have a sec to talk about the metaverse stuff, because that looks so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess quickly to just run through department stuff, and then I'll close in the metaverse. So first of all, I think I'll say one more time, a little bit of shameless self promotion. My approval, my snapshot is still up. So if anybody is just feeling the itch to go vote on snapshots, they can feel free to go vote on mine. As long as you vote yes, obviously. The stuff we got going around community. So first of all is just getting some basic setup squared away around stuff like bill pay. Putting feelers out for team openings. I've got a lead on someone to possibly take on the events role, so I'm pretty excited about that. That will continue to develop. Working out some details of recurring events. So taking a handful of small things off of Dumpling's plate, the Guess the Beans, and then a couple other things that we're going to be doing for the community. I'm just putting together some details for that. And Farmer Dan and I are actually going to be talking later on today about using about how we're going to handle things like Beanstalk swag as giveaways or part of giveaways, and then on the other side using the layer 3 bounty platform for some of those events to help us manage information flow. So it should be some good stuff coming from there. And then to kind of roll back around to the metaverse stuff, I had a couple really good emails back and forth with a few people. So we had some folks from inside the community that have been talking about metaverse stuff, and really on their own. And our goal is to take a lot of those ideas that folks like Liam and Bean Intern have been kind of kicking around on their own, and start to see what we can do to turn those into reality. And had a really, really positive couple emails back and forth with a cartographer, a map maker, and she gave us a quote for starting to put together a map of what we think our MetaBean metaverse could look like. And so basically what she'll be doing is she's going to be taking some geography that she has on file and anonymizing it, pulling out any recognizable information, and then kind of giving that to us as a first pass, and we'll be able to give her feedback about things we want added or moved around or changed. And what we'll end up with is a really nice starting point for our approach to the metaverse. And then taking some of the ideas that have been developed within the community and starting to lay those pieces, be it A&T University or the marketplace or different parts of the Bean experience, and laying them onto that map to start to build that metaverse out. And the last thing we'll say about metaverse is this is very new for me. I didn't have any metaverse experience beforehand, so we're still looking for folks to take on responsibilities. We've got a full-time and a part-time slot open in our metaverse group. So if anybody on here is either A, interested, or B, knows somebody that has some skill sets around working in metaverse development, I'd love to talk with them to see what they might think, and if we could possibly make some kind of more formalized connection.
Great, thanks, Rex. Seeing that stuff and like the layout for the potential MetaBean, like where where the barnyard is and where the, like the different areas, and just looked so exciting.
So
And
cool.
we were chatting like, oh man,
Yep.
we have to have like, it would just really tie it all together. It's just really exciting to look at. So so cool.
Yeah.
That's really great. I'm really excited for you to be. I think you're the perfect person to lead the community department. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah. Couldn't be happier. Great to be here.
So guys, I guess we've been going a while. I appreciate your patience, and also for the odd time. I think, to be honest, I don't see too many unique names here. We'll maybe just move back to. We can keep the discussion open, but unless this happens to be a better time for you all, we'll probably move back to the other time. But I do appreciate being able to take the time, a different time today, to have the meeting. That's all I have. I can open the floor really quickly in case anyone has anything else they'd like to say, but I also want to be respectful of people's time, and I know we're already at an hour 15. So I'll open it for anything, kind of critical, or any last thoughts, but we should probably don't want to take much more than about 5 minutes.
So I'm going to throw one more thought in. It's not necessarily associated directly with community, but it's been something I've been thinking about since the last, I think it was the last DAO meeting when we had Deez present on all the work that he's been doing. And again, huge thank you. I mean, obviously a massive undertaking. The piece that I've been trying to put together in my mind, and I think I dropped something in the general chat and Discord, is like, how do we fit these two narratives together? So on one side we've got very much the farmer playful narrative, and then I know Deez is seeing this like more refined, almost literary Jack and the Beanstalk narrative, and we've got these two things that are kind of moving around. And as I was thinking about it over the last 2 days, really what goes through my mind, and maybe everybody else has thought about this, and I'm just late to the party, or maybe it helps make some connection, but like, when I think about those two narratives, they really do fit together. If you think about like the Jack and the Beanstalk universe, every movie, every book implies a universe around it. And so the story of Jack and Beanstalk is, Jack trades a cow for some magic bean. And what goes through my mind is like, those beans had to come from somewhere. And in that broader universe, that means that there are people that grow or create those magic beans. And when I take that idea of like, that is what we do, we are creating those things, we're making that magic. It not only does it make the narratives tie together, but it fits so well with this like broad idea of what we're trying to do here in the DeFi space. We're providing something that is completely unique, something new, and something that is, not to use the term too loosely, but is magical in its own way. And really, when I started to put those things together, it's really, really energizing for me. And just I say that to hope to spread some of that energy around to this group.
Okay, Rex, you're not late to the party. You are the party. That's awesome. I love that. I love that idea that because Beanstalk Farms. Creating magic.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah.
Creating magic beans.
That's it. And that's in that way, I don't think anybody. So like, we've got folks. I've been involved in the protocol since late October, early November. So I'm gonna, been involved in it for a while. We're gonna have folks that will come in, now and very recently and moving forward. And those narratives are gonna be there, and we can still tie those together. Like, we don't have to have. At some point have, somebody be like, well, this used to be this fun, like farming theme thing, and now it's all serious. It doesn't have to be that way. We can take those narratives and put them together in a really seamless way and use them as momentum as we go forward. So it's just really exciting.
On that same theme, I had this idea, and I was kind of saving it in reserve for some clever time I could use it, but I'll I should share it. I was thinking that, in reading the Jack and the Beanstalk story over again, because someone brought up to me, they said, oh, Jack and the Beanstalk, yeah, but that didn't end up too well for Jack, did it? I thought, wait, It was fine because he gets everything, and he
Yeah,
chops.
the giant died.
Yeah, the giant dies. He chops down the beanstalk, and he gets. So I was thinking if we had something down the line that we wanted to call like Project Harp, or like, like just because like there's the magic harp, there's the bag of gold coins, and there's the golden goose, right? So at some point, like we could have different initiatives or something like. Anyway, I just thought that something like that could be a kind of a fun naming convention that maybe we could use if we have something that we need to have a clever name for. But
agreed.
But it is usually you have these sort of stories, and usually there is something kind of sinister or bad, or there's a with Jack and the Beanstalk there really isn't. He ends up kind of getting this stuff that was originally like stolen from his family or something like that. Anyway, all right, we're into Beanstalk territory. I'll let it go. I think we've used our 5 minutes. Rex, I think that's a great way to end the meeting. I really appreciate your insight and your kind of your spirit. So thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, thanks for a good meeting, guys. Sorry that went a little bit long. I appreciate you coming to the different time. And next meeting will be normal time, 8:30 Eastern on Thursday. And with that, I'll let you hop.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.